Okay, this is the Sunday class, session number 2, and we talked a little bit about the homework already, but I'm going to just go ahead and run through it real quickly and kind of show you a couple of ways to make each shape that we encountered. So let's go ahead and start opening up Sketchup. And I'm going to go ahead and just drag in the spec sheet for shape 1, just so that I have it to reference. And I'm going to Q for the rotate tool. I'm going to click and drag to set the alignment this direction. And click over here for my handle, flip it up, M for move, and just push you back a little bit. All right, so the first method that I'm going to use is the rectangle tool. So I'm hitting R. I'm going to start at my origin point. I'm going to click and start to pull it out. I'm going to type 100, comma, 100. Enter. It looks like this guy's pretty big, so I'm going to scale him down. And there. And move it down so it's a little closer. I don't need materials up. Close that up. All right, so now we will use our push-pull tool. So I'm hitting P, bring that up 100. Now we need our rounded corners. So I am going to hit T for the tape measure, and I'm going to drag down a construction line from this top one, 25, enter. From here, 25, here, and from here. And now I will switch to my arc tool. I like this one the best. And looking for that tangent point, there it is. Do the same thing over here. All right, now I'll switch to my push-pull tool, P, and just push that to the back. Same. There. And I can E for erase and get rid of these construction lines, and there is our shape. I'll go ahead and confirm the dimensions. Go from here, oh, not you, here to here, that's 100. From here to here, that's also 100. And from here to here is 100, good. And that's 25. And that direction is also 25. Good. All right, so that's one method of creating this shape. I'm now going to go ahead and delete it and show you a different way. Again, switching to R for my rectangle tool, drag that out, 100, comma, 100, enter. Before I push-pull it up, I'm going to T for tape measure, drag out some construction lines, 25, 5, just those. Out an arc. You'll notice that this time it actually erased the corner for me. I'm going to space bar for my select tool. Actually, I can get rid of this guy. I'm going to drag out some more construction lines. This time I'm trying to find the center of this square. And you can see it snaps right to the midpoint, and we get a little blue ball showing us that we're at the middle of that line. All right, so spacebar for select. I'm selecting this arc. I'm now going to switch to my rotate tool. I hit Q. I'm centering my rotation on the center of this square. Put my handle here. I'm going to hit Control. You see the little plus shows up. And I bring it up here. And now I'm going to hit asterisk 3 to multiply that 3 times. Now I can use my erase tool to get rid of these parts. And push-pull, stretch that up 100. It's facing the wrong direction, so 1, 2, 3. Get a group, and then my move tool. There we go. All right, so there's two methods for creating that shape. We'll move this guy over, and we'll drag out our next one, the toilet paper. And bring you down a little bit smaller. All right, again, I'm going to click and drag, set the handle, and bring it up, and move it back. All right, so the first method to use this one, or to create this one rather, is C for circle. And we are going to, we want our diameter to be 100, so the radius is going to be 50. We're making sure that our guide here is parallel to the red line. Type in 50, pull, up 100. All right, now to get that guy, we are going to, again, hit C for circle, and I'm just mousing over, I'm not clicking, I'm just mousing over this endpoint, and you can see there's like a little, you probably can't see it, there's a little green line that follows me, and if I mouse over that one as well, there, it snaps to the center. So I'm going to click, and again, making sure that that red line is there so that I'm parallel with the red axis, and I'm going to type in 25 so that we have our 50 millimeter diameter. E for push-pull, and pull that down here, and you can see there's a little green dot that shows up that lets me know that I am referencing that point. And Sketchup popped a hole all the way through it, so there we go, there's our shape. And we can confirm. All right, there's 100, there's 50, and if I switch to view hidden, I can grab one of these, and there's 100. All right, that looks good. So let's go ahead and do it a different way. T for our circle tool. I'm going to, again, same thing, 50, so that we have that radius, or that diameter of 100, enter. This time I'm going to switch and use my offset tool. You can see it turns blue there, so to let me know that those are the lines it's going to be offsetting. And I know that in order to have a 50 millimeter diameter on the inside and 100 on the outside, you split the difference, and that's 25 on each side. So I'll hit in 25. Enter. Now I'll hit space for my select, click on U, and delete. And now I can just push-pull that up, 100. There we go. And there's another way of creating that same shape. Now, Ruben, you said that you did this one two different ways. Which methods did you use?
I use those exact methods.
Okay, great. All right, let's see, shape 3. This is the like the Mentos looking thing. All right, let's go ahead and rotate it, Q. Move it, M. And we got to start out with a sphere. It's always easier to work in multiples of 100, so I'm going to make a 100 millimeter sphere. I start with my circle tool, and I will click, and then again, making sure that I'm aligned with that, or parallel with that red axis, I'm going to hit 100, which will actually give me a diameter of 200. Enter. This is going to be my larger circle. For the inner one, I move my mouse up, there it goes, it turns green. I hold down Shift, and I look for this center. So I'm going to reference that point and drag it in until there it snaps. Okay, click, pull U out, type 50, so I get that 100 diameter. Switch to my select tool, click U, pre-select that one, follow me, click there. All right, now I can erase that. And we have 100 millimeter diameter sphere. So I'll go ahead and take this guy, and we need to make it match this. So I'll switch to my scale tool, hit S. Now it needs to be 200 tall. So I will click here and scale 2. It needs to be 100 there, that direction. It is already, cool. And 150 that direction. So here I will scale 1.5. All right. Now let's go ahead and I'm going to view hidden just because it makes it easier to find certain points, and we will double check our measurements. Click here, here. All right, good, 200. Here, and here. Come on. There it is. There's 150. And here, and here. There's 100. Good. That one looks just how we wanted it to. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of that one and create another sphere. Again, typing in 100 for my big circle. Oh, wasn't aligned with the red. 100. So up here till it turns green, hold shift. Bring that in, find that center point. Good. 50. Enter. Pre-select you. Follow me. There. Can erase that. Now, I don't need to see the hidden, but I'm going to go ahead and group this guy first. So Shift G. And I'm going to move you out of the way just a second. And with this method, I'm going to switch to my rectangle tool. And I'm going to draw out a rectangle that's the exact dimensions of what we want our final to end up being. So that's going to be 100, 150. And it gets push-pulled up 200. All right, now this guy, we will hit scale. And we are going to grab a hold of this, click one time, and I will reference this corner, click another time. Do the same thing for this one, reference that corner. Pull it this direction and reference that corner again. And from this way, and reference that corner. I grab that handle and reference this corner, this handle, and reference that corner. Now I'll switch to my select tool, grab all of that and hit delete. And there we go. So there was another way of being able to scale this guy without actually having to type in the manual method.
And how are you measuring this again?
When I'm showing the actual measurements, I'm using this one here that has a 3 on it.
Okay, and how do you know that you're picking the actual like top or bottom and not some endpoint?
How do you mean I pick the top or the bottom?
Like if you're trying to get like total height, width, and depth.
Okay, like how do I know that this is 200?
Right.
Because, let me hit Control Z. Because I know that I manually typed in 200 when I pulled this one up. And when I created this box here, I made sure that it was the exact dimensions that we wanted our final to end up being. So
I get that. I'm saying after you've already made the egg.
okay.
You're trying to like confirm measurements and you try to measure points on the egg.
Oh, okay. If I switch to view hidden, like I've got a hotkey set up, so Shift H is for me view hidden, and that makes it way easier to just obviously from the top to the bottom, you just grab where they can all converge there and here. And then for the other ones, I'm looking for what is going to be basically center line going in both horizontal and vertical. And then again here, I'm looking for that same center. Does that help?
Yeah, the Shift H was the trick. That's why I was having a hard time measuring.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was trying to get points on the egg and the sweep that there's just so many random points and
Yeah, yeah. Trying to do it this way, you're going to drag. You're gonna drive yourself batty trying to do it this way.
You
Not,
luckily got it.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Shift H is really the only trick to measure rear geometry that doesn't have edges.
Right. I mean, that's the easiest way. And Shift H is a custom one that we set up. Otherwise, you could go up to View and hidden geometry.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. So this guy we will move out of the way. Moving on to Shape 4. I'll bring that one in. And again, Q, rotate, click there, and up, and move. All right, now for this one here, it's a little bit more complicated, but it's not too bad. I really can't think of more than one way to do this one, so I'll just run through the one way. We start out by doing our circle, and that's going to be a 100 diameter, so that's 50 radius, enter. I'm going to grab the whole thing, and I'm going to rotate it along here and flip it there. Now for this, I'm going to do this second circle, which has a diameter of 10 millimeters. And because I don't feel like doing the whole rotation thing again, I'm just going to draw it right onto this face. So C, this time I'm aligning it with the blue. So that's a 5 radius. Grab all of that, move, and control. And I'm just going to constrain to the red and put you over here somewhere. I'll come back to you later. And I can get rid of that one. All right, now to start building out our path. So we know that we want a straight line for 100 millimeters. So I'll switch to my line tool, and I will find the center point. There's the end. There's the center. All right, constrain to the red, and 100, enter. One is going to be 75 up and 75 across. So I'm going to constrain to the blue, 75, enter, red, 75, enter. And then the next one is 50 up and 50 over. So again, blue, 50. Come on. 50, enter. There we go. And a red, enter. Now, because it's always easier to do arcs on a pre-existing plane, I'm going to go ahead and fill these guys out and make them squares. Oh, one was off. There we go. All right, so now we'll make our... Now you notice that you may have noticed this time that for whatever reason it doesn't want to give you that tangent. So I'm noticing down here where it says bulge, and at the midpoint at about 26 and a half. That's actually too big because you can see it bulges over. So I'm going to manually now type in 25 and enter. Looks like that's still a little bit over, so let's try 24. And that looks, there we go. We can see that's not going outside of the square, so that one's all right. And the same thing for here. Again, it doesn't want to. I notice the bulge is 17.7, so I'll try 16 and enter. And that looks like it's more tangent. All right, so now I can get rid of the parts we don't need. Get rid of you, get rid of you, you, and you, and you. Okay, so now we got to put this guy in place. I'm triple clicking to make sure I grab everything. Move tool, and this time I'm going to, again, find that center. There it is. Click. And bring it, whoa, not too far. Lock it right onto the end point of that path. There we go. Now I'm going to select the whole thing, and I'm going to click the Curve Aloft Path tool, and it's going to figure out everything that it wants to. I just click the check, and there's the completed part. However, that guy is inside out, so I'm going to click on here, right-click, reverse face. Now, none of our stuff is inside out, and it looks the way it's supposed to look. If we hit Shift X to view X-ray, it looks just like our spec sheet. So I'm going to grab all of that, make that a group, and move you back some. Last thing is the SketchUp logo. We'll drop you in.
Quick question.
Sure, go ahead.
What causes these surfaces to be flipped?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it has something to do with what direction they are in relation to the origin. But a lot of times it seems to be SketchUp flipping a coin as to which direction it wants to make them.
What's the purpose of having two different meanings of a surface?
That's so that you know whether or not your model is inside out. So let's take this spheroid shape here. I'll go inside that, and so we don't get lost, I'm going to hide the rest of the model. So the outside of it is white. If I were to go inside of it, I'm now inside of it and it's all gray. In fact, to illustrate this a little better, I'm going to switch to my section plane. Let's move you back a little bit. So you can see inside of it. Here, I'll even turn those on to make it a little easier. And the two color differentiation basically just lets you know whether or not you have an inside facing part or an outside facing part, or face rather. And this guy, when you have the faces facing the wrong direction, it will cause errors in your 3D printing slicing software. So visually, it's not that big of a deal. In fact, like if you were just doing this strictly for animation, it really wouldn't matter. Or strictly for rendering, it wouldn't matter. But in terms of creating STL files and files that you want to get 3D printed, apparently it matters. So that's why we just always make sure that the whites are outside and the grays are inside.
One of the extensions that we've added, like I think one of them was like some model check. Does that check where the surface is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so even if we might have missed it, as long as we hit that before we set our files to be printed, we should be fine, right?
Yeah, like here, I'll reverse that one. So we got one face in this object is reversed, and I will hit that check, and you see it found it. One reversed face, fix, boop. So it's not too big of a deal. All right, our SketchUp logo. Let's go ahead and move you out of the way. Let's also shrink you down a little bit. You're a bit large. Okay, so this one, we're going to go ahead and start out with a 300 by 300 cube. I guess 300 by 300 by 300. So switch R for our rectangle tool, and 300, comma, 300, enter. And push pull, P, pull that up, 300. Okay, now we need to do our pushed in parts. I'm going to T for my tape measure and bring that out 100, and another one from there, 100, and this direction. Grab the line, there you go. All right, we'll now use my, my rectangle tool again. Drag one out to here, and 1, 2 there. And get rid of these guys. Push pull. 100, enter. Double click. Now for this part, again, go to my tape measure or T, bring that in 20, here, and here, all the way around. And we will switch to our line tool, L. I'm looking for those red X's where possible. There we go. And I can get rid of these construction lines. There we go. Push pull, down 20. All right, now that was kind of, well, it took a lot longer than it should have because I did construction lines all the way around. So this time I'm going to use my offset tool. And from here, type in 20, enter, and there we go. And I'll do the same one on this side, 20. And push pull, P. Oh, select, there we go, P. Down 20, enter, and double click. And there we go, that's nice and easy. So in this case, I'm showing you two different ways of being able to figure out where you want your inset to be. Now for painting it, we hit B for bucket, and we come down to the red, and we'll just start clicking on the faces that we want to be red. And underneath, there we go. And now we need those parts to be white. So come down to the white one. Now you're probably thinking, why on earth do you need to do white? It's already white. Well, I'll show you. Let's go ahead and grab the whole thing and make it a group. And let's say that you click on purple and apply that to the entire group. Anything inside of it that has the default colors is going to change to that color. And you'll notice the part that I clicked that was white stayed white. So while white and default may look the same, they behave differently. So if I come in here and start painting, in fact, if I click on my little house here, it'll show me all of the colors I have currently in my model. So white. If I hold down Control, you'll see a little series of red blocks that show up under the bucket. And then I click on something. It's going to change everything that is connected with this color, that color. So all of the connecting faces will change that color. In fact, you can see if I hold down and apply it here, everything turns that color. And now even though the group, because if we look up here, the group is colored purple, nothing inside of it is because everything's actually been painted. So we can actually make you back to default. And you're thinking probably, why on earth would you need to do that? Well, let's say that you have a figure and you want to do it in a multiple different colors. Whether it is renders for the different color variations in Shapeways, or you're doing the full color sandstone. This way you can actually set your components to have painted colors, the things that you want to stay the same, and leave default the things that you want to change. And then let's say that here we'll make that part default. Come on, back out. And we'll have copies of it. And we know that we want all of them to have white insets. So then we can just do this. And we can create multiple colorways without actually altering any of our components. So let's say I had made that in component instead of a group. I could actually go inside one of them, muck with the geometry, and that would be, replicated throughout all of the other components, even though they're different colors. So there is your materials lesson. I'll get rid of these guys. All right, and I will save this file in our lesson 2 folder. Call you homework shapes. All right, so that's in there if you guys ever feel the need to take a look at it. Now we're going to get started on making our action figure. We are going to focus today on the head and the torso, and if time permitting, we will get into the limbs. So let's go ahead and take a look at our schematics. If you had a chance to take a look at it, this is the completed figure. It's full height and a couple of the different key points. But let's go ahead and drop the schematics for you in there. I'll grab these. All right, so they're in there. Your Google Drives should be updating. So let's go ahead and start with the torso first. Here is our schematic for the torso. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave it here because I found that when I dragged it into SketchUp, it didn't retain a lot of the detail that I need in order to be able to read these measurements. So let's go ahead and get started here. All right, so for starters, we know that this, if we rough out a rectangle of this shape, we are going to need, let's see, there's 5 mil, and then 5.5, and then 1.5. Let's go ahead and just get started by just dragging out a rectangle of any old shape and push-pulling it out. Okay, so we need, let's go ahead and pull this out. We need that to be 5, enter. Another one, 5.5, enter, and 1.5, enter. I'm going to push-pull this down to that construction line. All right. For our width, let's see, which one has the width? There we go. 15 mil by 11 deep. Okay, so another construction line from here, 15, enter. Okay, so we'll push-pull that in to line up with that construction line. And 11 going back that way. Pull. I think I've mentioned before that SketchUp really doesn't like to work on teeny tiny things, which is why it's always so far zoomed out. And then when I do something small like this, you have to really zoom in on it. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of these excess ones that we don't need. We're going to keep these two. And we can tell by our spec here that we have a line here and a line going that direction, so we'll go ahead and add those. So that's here to here, and here going back, and one on this side. All right, we can get rid of you. And at this point, we've got some curve going on. Let's take a look at what the spec says for that. Okay, it is 1.5 tall, we got that, and 2 deep. So we'll draw out a construction line here. We don't need that one now. And we'll draw out 1, 2, and one on this side as well. 2. And here we'll go ahead and put in our curve from that intersection to that one, but we don't want, that's what we want. You can see naturally it tried to give me one that bulged out a little too far, but that looks better. All right, again, from here to here, and I want that cyan color. There we go. I can get rid of you and you and you. I will push-pull these back. Now you'll notice that it left me a lot of lines here. I could leave them. It's not going to affect my print one way or the other. It doesn't look as nice. And when I start getting into some really complex geometry, all these extra lines are going to make it really hard to tell what the hell I'm doing. So I'm going to switch to E for erase. I'm holding down Control while I go over these, and that's going to soften those lines up. And you can see that makes SketchUp render that as if it's a rounded part, a round face. Just to show you the difference, I'm going to hold Shift this time. And instead of softening those lines, it's hiding them. So if I try to select, all of those faces are still separate faces. And in fact, you can probably see the very sharp lines of where each face bend and connect with each other. So let's Shift Control, erase, Shift Control, and that unsoftens and unhides. Or maybe just unsoftens.
Why didn't we get those lines on the assignment?
That's a good question. In fact, I have yet to figure out why SketchUp does that.
Right.
Like sometimes when you draw out I think, like when you draw out a circle, and it treats, like you'll notice here, when I click on the parts of the arc, they've now been separated into segments.
Yep.
And I have no idea why SketchUp decided to do that.
It could be maybe it's because they're not equal measurements.
That's possible. That's definitely possible.
Yeah.
But now it's you can see since I softened it this time, it treats the entire thing as one continuous face, although it still treats these as separate line segments. I'd love to have a plugin that would reattach all of those as a continuous line segment, but I've yet to find one that does it. All right, so we've got our rounded portions there. Now we got to figure out what we're doing down below. So let's consult our spec sheet. All right, so from 5 down, we can see that this point here is 2 mil in. So let's go ahead and draw ourselves some guidelines. So 2, and from here, 2. Let's see. All right, and we can tell that from straight down here inwards, it's 1 to that point. So there is 1. In fact, I don't need to do that. I can just use my Move tool and make sure that I have that one line constrained to the green, move it in 1. There we go. I can see that it moves in that direction. And then it's from 2, from that point to that point. So I am going to go ahead and add one construction line there. 2, enter. And then we also have some stuff on the back here. It looks like it is 2 in and 2 back. So again, I've already got the 2 in, and there's the 2 back. All right, so let's go ahead and move this line here inwards. Constraining it to the red. I don't think that's right. Something is messed up here. Looking for something else that tells me how far in that goes, and I think I forgot to include it. It should be 1 mil, but yeah, it's 1 millimeter, and I didn't include it, so I apologize for that. So we'll constrain to red, 1 mil in there. And same thing on this side. M, constrained to red, 1, enter. And then we actually have our corners are kind of notched off there, so we'll do that. And there's a two different ways we can do that. One way is we'll draw lines from here to here, and then from here to here, and then back up, and then use our eraser tool to get rid of what we don't want. That's one way to do it. And the other way to do it involves almost the exact same amount of lines. So from there to there, from there to there, and instead I'm going to use my move tool and grab that corner and put it there. So there's two different ways to do that, whatever you're more comfortable with and whatever is more appropriate for what you're working on. Let's go ahead and do that. And on this one, there, eraser tool, E. And we can get rid of all of these. All right, our torso is starting to look pretty good. It needs some ball joints though. So what I'm going to do is switch to my circle tool, and I'm going to start out with a 10mm ball joint. But Sketchup doesn't like to work that small. In fact, here, I'll show you. Let's go ahead and drag that out and do 20. I don't want that to be fused. Here we go. 20. And turn screen, find that center point. I'm holding shift. 5, my 10mm diameter. I pre-select this guy and hit follow me. Look what happens to my ball. It's a little incomplete. Again, because Sketchup doesn't like to work on something this small. So what we're going to have to do is, I'll just get away from that guy for a second, and I'm going to do one at 100mm. So circle, 100. Find the center point of that. Turn green, hold shift. Where are you at? There it is. So 50. Select that. Follow me. There we go. Flip those around. I have no idea why I decided to make those inside out. We can erase that. Now that we have this 100mm ball, we can shrink it down. So scale and bring that down 0.1. And let's move you over to where you're useful. Shift Z to zoom in on everything. Come on. You know what? Let's constrain it to the green. Line up with that. Where are you? Constrain to the red. Constrain to the blue. Here we go. I have no idea why Sketchup decided to put it way out here. Even it's still not lined up. Come on, you bastard. There we go. All right, so now we've got this 10mm ball. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a component, but you'll notice that it doesn't give me that option. And the reason for that is it is considering this to be just one face and nothing else. So the way we get around that is we can select the whole, switch to hidden view, select the whole thing, and now it's going to go, oh, this is a whole bunch of faces and lines. I can make that a component. So make component, we're going to name you 10mm ball. And the reason we're doing that is so now we have a starting point for any other balls that we decide to draw out. And since it's at 10, that's going to make it a lot easier for us to scale and figure out where we want to go. So now that we've got this 10mm ball, our spec actually calls for a 5mm. So we're going to scale you down, 0.5, enter. All right. Now, because I know that I'm going to end up using this over and over again, I'm actually going to explode and make it a component again. The reason I exploded it first is so that it doesn't have a 10mm ball trapped inside of a 5mm ball. So make component 5 ball. There we go. All right, we've got our 5mm ball. Now we need our post for it to go on. And the spec calls for a 3mm post. So our, again, C for circle. I'm going to draw this out. 1.5, enter, and push-pull up. And I'm going to say 5 for now. That's not going to stay that way though. I'm going to grab all of this and make this a component. And I'm going to call you 5 millimeter ball post. There we go. Go inside of that and start mucking with it. So I want this to be centered on top of that. What I'm going to do is select you, switch to my M for move tool. I'm going to grab this little point here because that makes it really easy to figure out where the center of it is. And I'm going to constrain it to the red axis. And I'm going to find where that center point is on this one and line that up. There we go. I'm now going to constrain to the blue axis and just move you up a bit. All right, again, grabbing that center point and constrain it to the green by hitting left and line it up with that one. All right, so now that we know this ball is lined up perfectly centered over top of this post. Now then we want our post to actually stick out 3 millimeters from the ball. Anytime it actually gets used, it's only going to have 2 millimeters, but that's going to give us 1 millimeter of play to actually put it inside of something so that there's enough of a part overlap that you don't have to worry about Sketchup, or I'm sorry, not Sketchup, but Shapeways accidentally printing them as 2 separate parts, and they'll be fused together properly. So in order to do that, we are going to take this guy, 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to make him a group. G. Side of this one real quick. And I remember I made it 5. So I'm going to push down 2. And just double check real quick by switching to my tape measure. Click there and there. Yep, that's 3 mil. Okay. Back out. This guy, I'm going to grab it anywhere, it doesn't matter, and constrain it to the blue axis. And I am going to, I'm paying attention to when that line disappears. So you can see, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's like a little bit of a ledge right there, and we don't want that. So again, grabbing here, constraining it to the blue, just a little bit. Come on. And see that? It moved at 0.1 mil, and that's actually a little bit too far. I switched to my invisible, or X-ray view rather. We can see just how far it went in. I'm going to, let's see now. Oh, I'm going to take it from the other direction because it really doesn't matter how far it pushes in. So check this out. We'll go inside this one, push-pull you up a little bit, there. A completely arbitrary amount that doesn't matter. And instead, I'm going to push-pull it from the bottom so that that matches. I'm going to take my guide with it. You can see a little X shows up from the intersection. So from there, actually, I'm going to take one from here first so that I get that construction line. I gestured with my hand, but you couldn't see it. And put it right to where that intersection is. Okay, so now from there, I can create another construction line to come down, 3, enter. And that's where we want our, you know what, here. I'll select it by clicking on it, Control X, go inside of this guy and go edit, paste in place. So you can actually copy and paste construction lines. All right, deselect and push-pull you so that you line up. Come on, there you go. And we can erase that. Go back outside, erase this one. And now, if we check from here to here, that's 3 mil, perfect. All right, so now we've got our 5 millimeter ball on a post. I can get rid of my hidden lines. And I'm going to move you. This is going to be our neck. But we got to position it in just the right place. So let's constrain you to the blue and move you up some. And we want to get this centered on the torso. So I'm going to switch back to hidden view. That point, just because it's the easiest one to find. constraining it to the red, and I'm mousing over until I find a blue circle show up. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. That's going to let me know that that is a midpoint for that line. So perfect. I'm now going to click on this edge and drag it down till it just touches there. Now I can manually drag it down, constraining it to blue 1 mil. And because that's exactly 3, I know that I have 2 millimeters of post showing. Now we need shoulders. So what I'm going to do is click and drag here, hit Control. There we go. And it's following along the red axis. I'm going to just rotate it like that. And let's see what our, see, 2 mil out, 5 millimeter ball. How about for positioning? There we go. From the center point of this post, it is 3 from that corner and 4 from that one. Although if you look closely, I don't know if you guys can see it. I say that a lot, don't I? That actually doesn't quite line up with where that line is. So I must have messed something up in my drawing. But let's see. If I take a construction line, drag that out that direction 3. What's left 4? 4.4. So instead, I'm going to split that difference and do 3.2. There we go. I'll line you up as well. Move by this guy, constrain it along the green. Come on. Constrained to green and lined up with this. It's not going to want to snap right onto that construction point, but it will do it where it intersects with a line. So there. And we'll do the same thing for you. This time I'll just grab it by here, constrain it by green, and line it up with this one. Good. And bring it down, constrain it to blue. Grab that, constrain it to red. That face, again, constrain to red and manually type in 1 mil. Good. How far is it supposed to be from the top? Do our specs say? It doesn't, because that's just what it does. So I don't think it does. Nope. Though I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be 1 mil. So we'll make it 1 mil. T, bring that down. 1, enter. We're far off. Get rid of that one. We don't need that anymore. You're selected. Right where that intersects, there's a little purple X that shows up. I'm going to click, constrain it to the blue, and there, it lines up with that construction point, construction line rather. All right, so that one's just where it needs to be. I'm going to select it, move, hit Control, and constrain to the red. There. And flip you around. And constrain to red, move you so you touch there. And again, constrain to the red, 1 mil. All right, that looks good, except now we need to cut out our back for where it clips in with the mushroom peg. And we can see that in our spec here. So let's zoom in on that. All right, so we know that this box here is 9 by 4. So let's go ahead and put some guides in for that. Let's see, do we know how far? There we go, 3 mil up. T, bring that up, 3, enter. And another one, 4, enter. Drag one from this line and line it up with the midpoint so we know where the middle of our torso is. And it's 9, so we're going to go 4.5 and another 4.5. And we'll switch to R for our rectangle tool, and we'll just draw out a rectangle right there. Okay. Close, get rid of those. And but how deep? Well, it doesn't say it in the spec, but we're doing a minimum wall thickness of 1.5 for any of these parts. So just to make sure that the things, when we put them under tension and try snap fitting these things together, they're nice and tight and don't break on us. So to do 1.5, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to my X-ray view just so you can see what I'm doing. Push-pull from here. I'm actually going to line it up with this face here. If I were to click right now, it would punch a hole right through it. I'm looking down in the lower right-hand corner where it says distance, -11. I'm actually going to subtract 1.5 from there. And so that gives me 9.5. So 9.5, enter. And there we go. That's our 1.5 mil wall thickness. And there we go. Now we need to cut out this our C-clip portion of it. So what I'm going to do is actually draw it on the bottom. So we need to get our measurements. We know that it is 2.3. I'll zoom in for you. There we go. It is 2.3 from this edge to where that starts. So let's go ahead and draw out some guidelines for that. First, we need to figure out where that edge is. So constraining to red there, and another one there, and then 2.3 in. 2.3, enter, and another 2.3, enter. All right, we can get rid of you guys now. Okay, so that gives us this point right here. Now we got to figure out how to get to that one. Well, we know it's 1.6 in. So let's go ahead and draw out a line for that. 1.6, enter. How do we figure out how far in to go? Well, we know that it is 3.5 across this space right here. So from our center point, let's go ahead and draw a center point there. And we need to figure out 3.5 spaced in the middle equally. So that is going to be 1.75 there, and another one, 1.75. All right, so that's going to, now we can go ahead and draw those lines. That's from here to here, and I hit escape to stop drawing, and another one from here to here, and escape again. All right, so I don't need you, I don't need you, I don't need you, and I'm going to leave the center one for now. All right, now we've got 1.7 going in. So again, line tool, draw it this way, 1.7, enter, escape. And again, this one, I'm just going to constrain it to the green and inference that one. There we go, and escape. Now we got to figure out where to make that circle. So for the circle, we know that it is 1.5 from that back edge, and it is a 5mm diameter hole. So if I drag a line from here, constraining it to the green, and then position myself around to that guy, that gives me a construction line of where that edge is. So now from here, in 1.5, there we go, can get rid of you now. And it's a 5mm diameter, so I'll draw another construction line from here to go 2.5, enter. And now I can switch to my C and click here. This is going to be the center point of that circle. I'll just follow it along here and click there. And it looks like the edge is a little bit off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to err on the side of more inwards, since I didn't provide a spec for where that one actually ends up. So what we're going to do is double click you, zoom in, and move this from where that little red X shows up. So that's the intersection, constrained by green, and line it up with that point. There we go. All right, now I can hit E for erase and start getting rid of what I don't need. There. And before I go punching that up through there, when I test printed this figure, I found that I needed to also add a channel to allow the material to flex a bit. That's not in the specs, however. But what I am going to do is a 5 millimeter, I'm sorry, half millimeter channel. So let's go ahead and drag out a construction line from here to that center point on the circle. And because I want it to be half a mil in each direction, or I'll do 0.25, enter, and another one, 0.25, enter. I can get rid of that guy. And I need to know where, constrain it to here, and the same thing for the other side, constrain red.
Can I interrupt a second?
Sure, what's up?
I think that rectangle is not 1.5, it's less from the surface.
Which one?
The hole that you made.
From here to here is less than 1.5?
No, I think it's from the I'm actually pointing at my screen. from the part where it slopes.
Yep. You're right. That actually gets narrower. So that ends up being, let's see, from here constrained to green is 1.1. So that's actually falls within the minimum wall thickness for Shapeways. But you're right. That could be what threw off my circle. So good eye. Let's see from here. I want a line, not a, no, I don't want that. On the line. There we go. That's what I want. Constrain it to the red and that corner. All right, so again, rectangle. There. And get rid of what you don't need. There we go. So now I'm just going to punch that up with my push-pull. And for some reason, Sketchup decided to leave me an inside-out line. I'm just going to get rid of that. And there we go. Now we've got the C-clip portion of the mushroom peg that's going to peg into here. And any questions so far on what I've been doing? Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and save this guy as a component. We'll call you torso. All right, now for the head, which is probably the most complicated thing. Oh, cancel. I didn't mean to close you. I meant to close you. All right, so where is our head? This is it. And this is really only complicated because of what's going on inside of the head. But we'll get through it. So this socket, if you take a look at the cutaway of it, we actually have some beveling going into the socket. The socket is a 5 millimeter ball socket. It's got a hole at one end. It's also cut in half to allow the entire thing to expand as you're pushing the ball into it. And then the entire head itself is hollow, so that we use less material when we're printing. All right, so let's figure out how to make this. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the outer portion of the head. And we can see that it is 13 by 11.3. And it has a 1.5 mil rounded chamfer around both the top and bottom. So let's go ahead and make that. Why did you go down there? Back up. There we go. I can delete because I've got it in my components library now. So when I need it, I will drag it out. All right, so for the head, we'll go to our circle tool, and we will drag out. It was 13 across, so that is 6.5. Enter. And push pull, it was 11.3. All right, but we want some rounded corners around it. Other programs make it really easy to do this. SketchUp does not. We want it 1.5 from the top and the bottom. So I'm going to push pull 1.5, enter. And from here, 1.5, enter. Okay, now to do the rounded portion of it, I'm going to switch to my L tool, my drawing, and I'm just going to pick an edge right here, and I'm going to come in and go 1.5, and then constrain to the blue, up 1.5, and I'm just going to make that a square so that I can put an arc on it. Come on. It doesn't want to give me the tangent. All right. Now, so I don't have to draw that again, I'm going to double click that, move, and control. I'm going to bring it straight down, constrain to the blue axis, and then right click and flip along the blue direction. And again, constrain to the blue and just notch it right there. All right, so now that we've got those in place, what we're going to do is we're going to pre-select that face and do the follow me right there. But look, that's not at all what we wanted to happen, is it? So we'll hit Control Z, and we will grab all of this and scale it. When doing this technique, which we're going to have to do a lot of times, pretty much any time that we have to intersect things or do things with curves on a tiny scale, SketchUp barfs. So to get around this, what we do is we blow it up 100 times, do whatever intersecting or whatever we need to do, and then shrink it back down. Because things can move around if your bounding box changes, I always make sure that I've got my axes going the exact same direction every time, and I always grab the same handle, which for me is going to be the front upper right one. So 100, enter, Shift Z to view the whole thing. All right, so now that it's larger, SketchUp shouldn't bar fight it. So I'll pre-select you and follow me. There we go. And same thing, pre-select you, follow me, there. I will now switch to the push-pull just to bring that out. And the same thing with this one. There. I can now hit Control A, or I'm sorry, select first, Control A, scale S, and again, making sure I'm grabbing that same handle, bring it back down, 0.01, enter, Shift Z to zoom in on it. All right. Now you notice just like when we did the other push-pull, it left all these lines with the rounded thing. Again, it's not going to affect our print one way or the other, but it just doesn't look good, and it's going to make it a lot harder for us to see what we're doing when we switch to like X-ray view or something. So I'm just going to go ahead and soften these guys up. I'm holding down Control. There we go. Unfortunately, if I were to try to select them, I'd be here all day, and like double clicking on them isn't going to like grab the whole line. Instead, it's going to try to grab the faces that are next to it. And the bottom one. Who knew your Saturday night was going to be so exciting? All right. And let's get around to back to the front. Now, before I go adding eyeballs to this guy, I'm going to grab the whole thing and make a copy of it by move control. This copy is what we're going to ultimately end up using to hollow this guy out. So we'll just set him aside for now. And this guy I'm going to make a group. I can go inside of it and not have any worry about anybody else. So for example, if I were to hit Control A, it's not going to grab anything outside of the group. All right, so let's go ahead and put our eyeballs on this thing. If we look at our specs, the eyeballs are 2 millimeters by 4 millimeters and 1.5 millimeter off center and 0.25 millimeters deep. So in order to do that, I'm first going to go ahead and basically draw out on a flat surface those specifics. And to make sure that they are directly in front, I'm actually going to draw a line from here, constraining to the green there. And it doesn't really matter what size it is, so just as long as it's a flat surface. There and down there. And I can get rid of that. That line was basically just to, if I try to draw out a rectangle, it would try to wrap it around or conform it to one of the angles on this surface, which is not ideal. All right, so now let's figure out the shape and the exact specifics of those eyeballs. These edges are not going to be of any use to us, but we'll start here and we'll bring it in, constraining it to the red, and we're going to find the midpoint of that cylinder. So there is the center point. Wait, that's not the center point. Let's try that again. On edge, nope. There we go. Constrain it to red and there. All right, so that's the center point. Doesn't look like it because of this, but don't be fooled. We know that it is 1.5 off center. So the from this center point, you've got 1.5. So it's 3 total between the eyeballs. So from here, we'll come over 1.5. And from here, 1.5. Okay, now let's find the center point going up. So constrain to blue. And let's find the midpoint. There it is. Okay. And the eyeballs themselves are 2 by 4. So from here, we'll come over 2. From here, we'll come over 2. And up 2. And down 2. All right. But in order to put down our circles, it's a lot easier if we know where our center point is going to be. So I'll just add another one here going 1 and 1. The circle tool, C. From here, I'm just going to click, 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 click. All right. Double click on that, scale, and hold down Control so that it scales it from the center. There. Again, select, double click, S scale, Control, and there. All right, so now we can get rid of all of these. And there's our eyeballs. And we can get rid of this as well. But now we got to put them on the cylinder and cut them out. What we're going to do is, and this is a bit tricky, we're going to push-pull this so that it goes inside of here. We'll go about halfway. Doesn't really matter how far. And double-click, so that goes the same amount. Obviously, like as we've seen before, we've got 2 rounded faces here, and Sketchup is not going to like that. So we'll Control A, scale, blow it up, 100, Shift Z. All right, I'm going to click on this and shift click that and that. Right click intersect faces with selection. All right, see it drew a line where those intersected. So now if I hit Shift X to view X-ray, I select here, you can see it doesn't continue on. They're now separate faces. So before I go getting rid of the parts I don't want, because if I do that, that's gonna, in fact here I'll even show you. If I get rid of these, the shape of my bounding box just changed. So now if I scale it, it's gonna be different. The scale isn't going to be exactly the same, and so I'm gonna end up with a part that's not the right size. So wait until I make it small to get rid of that. Hit A and S for scale. Again, grabbing that same handle we always use. 0.01, enter, Shift Z. All right, now we can get rid of those bits. There, and delete. In fact, we can also get rid of, before we get rid of these guys, we're going to leave them there for just a second because we need to push these in 0.25 millimeters. So to do that, I'm going to select you and Shift select you. And it won't let me push-pull it because, like, if I try to, push-pull doesn't work on a curved surface. So I'm going to shift-click those. I'm going to hit Move, and let's switch to view so you can see it. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to tap Control to make a copy and constrain it to the green. Let's go backwards, 0.25, enter. All right, now click that, and hit delete, and now it's inset. Although one thing you'll notice is that Sketchup wasn't happy with us, and it got rid of all of our faces that were around that section. However, we can, if we want, take the time to start drawing them all back, and you could see us making it inside out. Why? I don't know. And also, here I just hit Control Z a couple of times. Control A, let's scale that back up and see if at a larger scale it'll be more amenable. So we'll click those again, move, switch to, oh, I didn't go back far enough. Z until, there we go, that's what we want. A, scale, 100, Shift Z, U, and U, move, Control, drain to the green, backwards. And I can do this here because I'm not messing with the outside bounding box shape. But if I do 0.25, that's not going to be enough. I have to actually scale that up 100 as well, so that would actually end up being 2.5. All right, so now let's see if that worked any better, and it did. We just have to select you and reverse face, and the same thing on here, reverse faces. Now we can select all S and scale it back down, 0.01, enter, Shift Z. If I switch to X-ray view, you can see I've still got these sticking out in there, and I can get rid of those. There we go. Now we've got some eyes punched into our curved surface. It wasn't too painless. Now we need to hollow out this shape. So that's why we saved this guy. This one here, we need to shrink it down, and we want to have a 1.5 mil wall thickness all the way around. So to do that, we could try to figure out what the scale is if we wanted to figure out, okay, let me think, 13, what the scale to get that down, 1.5. I'm not going to bother with that. Instead, I'm just going to use that other trick that we did. So I'm going to group you. I'm going to draw out a rectangle that is 13, 13, and push-pull it up 11.3. And so that's where we're at right now. And I know that this is going to go in 1.5. In this direction, 1.5. Same thing here. And here. And here. And here. And now that I just did that one way, let me show you a different way of doing the exact same thing. Control Y, bring that back. Let's just do our offset 1.5, enter, push pull that to there. Sketchup decided it didn't need that face, but I do, so put that back. And we will just push pull these two guys 1.5. There. So this is what we want our final to end up being. So we'll grab you and hit S for scale. And again, grabbing by these guys. In fact, I could hit Control if I wanted to and go there. And from here, again, hit Control. Now it looks like they weren't lined up anyway, so it didn't matter. All right, so I got to do these sides anyway. So there, 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 there. All right, that looks good. Switch to our select tool, get rid of that. This guy is now scaled appropriately to be the inner walls of that. So we will hit explode, and we'll reverse the faces, because when it's inside here, we want those faces to be facing inside of the model. But we have to arrange it and get them exactly lined up where we want them to go. So we'll hit move, and I'm going to grab it by this point here, which should be the center, and I'm going to constrain it by the red and line up with what should be the center here. Okay. I'm going to find, there's a midpoint, line it with the blue, grab another midpoint there. And here we got to switch to X-ray view and find a midpoint here, constrain it by the green, there. All right, so now that is centered inside of that head, and that head is now hollow. In fact, we can now explode you. And if we take a look at our, if we take a look at our cutaway here, there we go. So now our head is entirely hollow, but we don't have any way to enter it. We need a socket. So let's add a socket. Our socket needs to fit around a 5mm ball. So I'm going to actually drag out a 5mm ball and post. There's one for us to start wrapping stuff around. We want a 1mm wall thickness around the socket. So we don't have one already that size, so I'm going to grab about a 10. There we go. And because it's 1 all the way around a 5, that's going to be a 7mm ball, right? So we'll scale you down 0.7, enter. All right. And let's go ahead and line it up over top of this guy. We'll move you guys over. In fact, I'm going to group these just so we can go inside of that group and work without being disturbed by other geometry. Move you. That's going to make that easier. And if I switch to X-ray view, I can now line them up according to those points. I can find what looks like a mid-equator type point on the outside one, constrained by blue, and line it up with an equator one on the inside. And there we go. So now these are aligned in all directions. In fact, this we are going to explode. We don't need you. And if we were to explode both of these, we now have a hollow sphere. This hollow void is going to be where our ball snaps into this joint. So we can actually grab everything and explode. All right. First thing we're going to do is cut a hole through the top. And actually, you know what? First thing I'm going to do is actually going to be to cut out the bottom of it. I always go, it's kind of an arbitrary sort of thing, figuring out where ball joints need to, like how much surface you need to have on the socket for the ball joint to fit into. Because the more surface that you have, the more grip it's going to have on that ball joint. So when you position it, it will stay where you put it more easily. However, the more surface is around that ball, the harder it's going to be to actually assemble it and to get that ball joint inside. So there's a balance that you need to figure out. Typically what I will do is I will figure out where that equator line is, and I'll come down 2 planes. Usually that's a pretty good rule of thumb if you're using, depending on how many you have total. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag from the right so that there. So anything that is within that box or even partially within that box gets selected. And I'm going to hit delete. And now what I'm going to do is use my line tool, and that's going to remind Sketchup that there is actually, that could be a completed face. I'm going to double click, right click, and right here it says soften smooth edges. You can see it just hardened all those edges around. Close you up. Okay, so now we've got that cut off. But that isn't quite open enough. But I'm not going to worry about it just yet until we get to the point where we're putting in that that part where it angles in towards the socket. What I can do though is I can at least get rid of this portion of it. So to do that, I'm going to switch not viewing hidden. I'm going to select you and select you, and I'm going to try to intersect faces. We'll see if SketchUp will do it at this size. If it doesn't, then we're going to have to blow it up. No, it didn't do it. If you'll notice, it drew the line too low because it was already had one there. It was like, oh shoot, that's close enough. Well, it's not SketchUp, so select all, scale it, bring it up. And select you, and intersect faces with selection. There we go. Now it's actually where it's supposed to be. I'm not going to get rid of it yet because that's going to change the shape of my bounding box. Select all, scale it back down. 0, 1, enter, Shift Z. Now I can get rid of that and get rid of that and flip those faces, reverse faces rather. If I view hidden, you can see more easily the shape of that socket. All right, so now we have a void for our socket to fit in, our ball to fit into. That space clearly is not big enough for the ball to fit inside yet. So we need to make some changes. But first I want to get this positioned where it needs to go and make some other modifications to it, like providing an exit hole. This exit hole will allow both powder to come out, but it will also allow for air to escape. As you're pushing your ball into the socket, if there isn't anywhere for the air to go, then you're going to have a really tough time trying to fit it, trying to seat it inside that socket. Also, if you're ever trying to remove it, it's going to create suction, which will make it, again, much more difficult and increase the chances of you breaking the ball off inside the socket. So let's go ahead and cut according to our specs, it should be a 1 millimeter hole. Yep, 1 millimeter diameter hole. So we'll cut that out. In order to do that, I'm going to switch to my line tool. And just to give myself some space from here, but keep it centered, I'm going to click from here, constrain to the blue, bring it up a little bit, escape, switch to my circle tool. I'm keeping my mouse out here where it turns blue and holding shift and putting it right on top of that guy. And I want it to be 1 millimeter diameter, so that's 0.5. Enter. I can get rid of that. And I'm going to push pull this so that it goes all the way through. All right. Now, again, this probably will not work at this scale, but we'll try it out. Intersect faces with selection. No, that doesn't look good at all, does it? So again, Control A, S, bring it up, 100. Z. You'll find yourself doing this a lot, unfortunately, when you're trying to do things tiny. Intersect faces with selection. Bring it back down. Oh wait, almost forgot something, didn't I? I didn't take into consideration the inside. So check this out. What we're going to do is Control Z. Instead, I'm just going to select that one, and I'm going to go with intersect faces with context. What that's going to do is anywhere that this face is touching, it will draw a line with any kind of anything that it intersects with. So it intersected there, so it gave us a line there. And it also did the inside here because it intersected there as well. All right, so now we'll shrink that back down. And we can get rid of what we don't want. It includes that and that hole. Oh, why do we have no wall there? There we go. I must have grabbed a line or something. All right, reverse face. Now we've got a hole cut in our socket. Let's go ahead and position you where you need to go. So in order to figure out the best place for this to go, I'm actually going to bring my torso back. And this I will group and move you out of the way. And move you out of the way. Components. Here's our torso. Drag you out. And I'm going to seat our socket right on top of that ball joint. But to make it easier on myself, I'm going to switch to X-ray view with hidden stuff showing. I'm going to grab like one of these. Actually, you know what? I'll grab an equator on the inside and see if I can match that up with an equator on this other guy. There we go. So that looks good. Right where it needs to be. Now, for this, we want it to have a 1 millimeter, let's see, is it 1? Yeah, 1 millimeter from here up of space between the torso and the head. So we will move you so that you are right where you're supposed to be at. Come on, up here. Almost. All right, let's get you positioned so that this bottom line is constrained to the blue with there. And we will manually constrain it to blue 1. All right, so now it's at the height it needs to be. Let's get the center here, constrain it by green, and line it up with the center on, you know what, let's add green and with that one, because that's a lot easier for us to find than trying to find where the inside of that one is. But we know that those are aligned, so we should be safe. And let's center it on the torso. So from here, constrained by the red, there's a midpoint. All right, so if I view inside, that's right where it's supposed to be at. Perfect. And we know that our socket is right where it needs to be. Now we just have to marry up the two. So you can go back away again. According to our spec sheet, we're supposed to have some angles coming out that feed into our channel. Also, there's supposed to be a cutaway where this cuts in half. So first things first, let's figure out those angles going inwards. Spec sheet and zoom out a little bit. All right, we've got a 40-degree angle from here inwards. 5mm ball socket with 1mm hole at the end. We got that. This channel is going to be 0.5 millimeter gap, and we've got it going from 1 going down and then 0.7 in. Let's see, okay, so it's actually a 1 mil at the bottom. All right, so let's take a look at this. Turn hidden. A little easier on myself so I can see what's going on in here. You can see that the socket extends below the inside of this portion of it. I'm going to drop the wall thickness from here to 1.5 down to 1 because we want it to be a little bit more flexible for where it fits in with the socket, but it can be nice and rigid around here. So to do that, I'm going to go inside of this shape, and I'm going to turn off, hide the rest of the model. The reason for that is so that when I view inside, see what I'm doing without having the socket in the way. All right, so to figure out how to get this pulled down, what I'm going to do is let's take you, and I'm going to hide them. Now, if I do that, which is show hidden, then that's not very useful. So I don't have the luxury of using that right now, but I'm going to double-click you, and move, constrain to the blue, 0.5 down. Because I know that it was 1.5, moving at 0.5 should make that 1 millimeter from the bottom. Now I can view my hidden again. You'll notice that trying to click on these, it's trying to select the whole, not the whole thing, but rather like one face at a time, and that's a pain. I'm going to hit Control A, click unhide. There we go. That was a lot easier. Of course, if you only wanted to unhide a portion of it, then this wouldn't work. All right, so now when we view it, it has been stretched out a little bit, so we've only got 1 mil there. If I come back out here, it looks like we've got a little bit of a gap, so that's good. That gives us some room to play. Now we need to figure out our cone. We're going to put the cone in this part and then merge the two of them together. So if you take a look at these cutaways, this cone here is 1 mil thick. It's got a 40-degree angle coming from here to here, and it is, let's see, 0.7 mil from where the bottom of that cone is to that channel, but that doesn't help. How far is it from here to here is the question. And it looks like I didn't enter it. I'm failing in terms of giving you all the information you need. All right, let's go ahead and call this, I'm going to call that 1 millimeter. So I'm going to offset 1. There we go. And let's see, in order to get a 4, we're going to cut this in half so we can see exactly what we're doing. Actually, I want this to be constrained along the green axis, but it doesn't want to let me do it. So to force it to, I'm just going to draw out a quick box there. And because it does the whole thing, there we go. And move you back so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. And what I'm looking for is I need to be able to make this a 40-degree angle. So we are going to use our protractor, and we're going to go to this center point, and we need it to actually be along the green. So there, hold down Shift, get back to that center point, come out along the red, and then here I'm going to type in 40, enter. And that's how far we need to go with this. Instead of trying to actually draw out a line and follow it around, I'm going to do something else by using my offset and bring this in. Bring this in to about there. It really doesn't matter how far you go. I'm going to double click on you and then move you, constraining you to the blue. And I'm going to get it to about so that it lines up with this control line there. So now we know that this forms a little cone at a 40-degree angle. Now we need our inside one to match. So we will take you, again, offset, give us a small little one. I'm actually going to take you and move this, that's my move tool, straight up. Come on, there. All right, that one doesn't like it, so I'll redraw another one with my protractor. Green, hold Shift. All right, where's that center one? I'm looking for the center one of the inside. Here we go. Along the red. Bring you up. Type in 40. Enter. Now I can move you. Move. Constrained by. Actually, I'm going to grab it by that guy right there. Constrained by blue. And up till it just touches there. All right, I can get rid of that one. All right, and now that looks good. We will soften that up. So eraser, control, and same thing up here. There we go. I can get rid of this and that. And so now you can see what's in our spec sheet, this portion of where it cuts up into our socket. Okay, now we got to merge those two. This is going to be a little bit tricky. So we are going to Control A, select everything, and explode them. And I'm going to make them a group again, just so that I can go inside of them. Everything, and scale it up, because you know that with these curved surfaces, SketchUp is going to like them. Right? Okay, we can see here, this guy, the bottom edge of that socket. So we need to start doing some intersecting faces. So we'll start with this one. Oh no, those are hidden lines, not softened lines. So let's switch to there, Control A, unhide. All right, SketchUp. I don't know why it even did that. You know what? I want to fix that. So I am going to Control Z until these are back to being separate groups. All right. So now let's unhide those again. All right, let's see. I think SketchUp will let us get rid of some of these lines. Nope. What if I redraw one? Oh, this is going to be fun. And this is, in fact, a flat surface. Well, let's see if I can get rid of all of them and just redraw one of them. Huzzah. Oh, no. Come on, SketchUp. Nope, it didn't like it. A lot of your time is likely going to be spent repairing what SketchUp decides is it thinks that the model should do. That's the price you pay for free software, I suppose.
I imagine working to music often helps.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I don't normally work in silence talking my way through the project. Out of curiosity, what would be your guys' music of choice while modeling?
I've gotten weird in the last couple of years, and it probably would be less music and more some kind of garbage reality television
Oh,
that
no.
that turns into like something that I could process as complete and utter background noise.
Okay.
That's kind of become what gets me through video making, which is weird because video making you can't even really pay attention to the audio. But
Yeah.
if I just hear something potato chip in the background for some reason, it keeps my brain moving.
Probably can't really even watch it either, right?
Nope, it's in the background. Turn on some kind of, I don't know, Gordon Ramsay thing. Just hear that stock music they use for inciting drama. Hear people shout at each other. Just assume something heartwarming is happening.
Hey, I got a question while we got time. Because you have to scale up and scale down, why can't you build it in a large scale and then scale down when you're completed?
There's no reason that you couldn't. I personally prefer to work at the smaller size, only because that way I can make sure that my my wall thicknesses are going to be where they need to be.
Gotcha.
But there's no I mean, if you take that into consideration, you go like, hey, I'm working at 100 scale, you know, and I know that when I shrink this back down, what I've got right now is, you know, 100. That's going to equal 1 millimeter. As long as you keep that in mind for when you're, you know, figuring out your wall thicknesses and your tolerances and stuff, then there's no reason that you can't work that way.
Cool.
Just a lot of keeping stuff in mind, you know. I don't know why it won't let me erase those ones there. But no, it doesn't like that one either. All right, so those are going to have to remain. And I'm just going to soften them. All right, so all of that again. Load, group, go inside, blow it up. And that's better. We're going to intersect faces with context. And we should be able to get rid of you. All right. What else is left? Okay, we want to get rid of anything inside of this inner cone. So that includes you. Again, same thing, intersect faces with context. Okay, get rid of that. If I get rid of that one, then these should be considered stray edges. Yep. All right. Can I get rid of, let's see, I can get rid of it inside of that cone now. Okay, because that's now inside of the socket. What else do we need? All right, so now that inner one, we can get rid of you inside of that and inside of here. So we'll click that. Faces with context. Thank you. Even though there is, there are of course intersections there, but Sketchup doesn't seem to realize it. Oh wait, is it already? Well, let's see what happens if I hit delete. Oh, maybe it was already. That's first. All right. Let's clean up some of the inside. So to do that, I'm going to, as long as I get rid of, I'm going to draw out a box here so I can use my section plane. But as long as I get rid of it and the bounding box returns what it is right now, I should be safe in shrinking it back down. I just don't want to have to do all of this, shrink it up and down, up and down. All right. Section plane, there, move. All right, so you can see here what's still left. We'll grab this guy and intersect faces with context, meaning that we should be able to get rid of that. We can get rid of this and this. Get rid of one of those and clean up. All right, is that everything? That's looking pretty good. Can we get rid of these? Yes. Can I just clean them up, or do I have to do it all manually? Nah, you bastard. All right. It's going to make me do all of it. I really hope it doesn't just break something somewhere, because that's been known to happen too. Okay, and of course, the part outside of the section plane is still there. What about these guys? I should be able to get rid of them too, right? Yep. Okay, let's get rid of you for now. So we can clean this up. And there should be some inside of this. There they are. We always try to get rid of any excess lines that aren't required for our model, just to clean things up, because sometimes they'll wreak havoc if you try scaling things or intersecting things. And so if you don't need them, don't include them. All right, so now we've got that part done. Now we need our cutout to allow this whole thing to flex out of the way when you shove a ball in there. So for that, if we come back here, we know that it is 0.7 mil from that edge, and it is a 0.5 millimeter gap. So I'm going to drag out a construction line to there, which is about the middle, or should be right center of our object. I'm now going to, let's see, I'm going to draw a line constrained to the blue there, just to get me some distance. And let's go by the green. It's 0.5, but it's scaled up 100, so that would be 50. But cut in half, so 25. Over. Just constrain it to there. Green, 50. Red. There. Gives us that shape. What we're doing is we're basically creating a shape that we're going to use to slice into this object and get rid of the parts that we don't need.
Did you want that rectangle to be right in the center? Because I think you went 25 one way and then added 25 the same way.
It shouldn't be. I did 25 one way and then 50 down the other, but we can double check that. Nope, it's 50.
But I mean off center though. I think you're.
Am I off center with this?
I don't know.
Is that what you're saying? Okay. Well, let's see. If we take if we drop our construction point from here, or construction line rather, constrained to the blue. Nope, it's on center.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I'd measured up 25 over and then 50 down. So.
Oh, I thought you went down 25 and then down another 25.
No. All right, so now let's see. We don't want these edges to be right exactly there. We need them to be over 0.7, which is going to be scaled up to 70. So here, constrained to the red, 70, enter. Same thing on this side. Move you over, constrained to the red, 70, enter. Okay, and now I'm going to push-pull this, but I'm going to switch to my invisible, or X-ray. I keep calling it invisible. X-ray view, just so that I'm high enough to be able to get past the socket. There we go. Right, and here's where we will select all of these bits. And we will right-click, intersect faces with context. All right, let's see if that worked. We'll now get rid of you. Actually, I'll use the select tool to get rid of that chunk. There we go. We don't need you. And I am going to use my section plane just to move in on it a little bit. All right. We don't need these. Okay. Let's see, what else can we get rid of? You? No. It didn't totally cut that out. So let's see, can we redraw some of that and give it back? I'm sure you guys saw stuff like this happening when you were doing the paper craft part. Because I don't want to just get rid of it. Let's switch to hidden. Can I get rid of just that? Oh. Redraw part of you. All right, we're gonna have to get creative with that one. Get rid of that. I should have flipped the all of those faces of the ones I was cutting into, but using to cut into rather. No matter. Okay. And you I can get rid of. That and that. Just clean it up. All right, what else can we get rid of? It won't let me get rid of those yet, so I'm gonna have to chip away at those. All right, these we can get rid of. And the lines as well. And should be some over on the other side. Yep, there they are. Okay, and we got some bits over here to get rid of. And we'll use cleanup to get rid of the rest of that. Okay, that looks like about all of it with the exception of that little bit at the very bottom. Let's go ahead and also flip the faces, but rather than select all of them, this doesn't always work, but we'll try orient faces. Excellent, that worked that time. Thank you, Sketchup. Cool. All right, so now we just got to get creative with how we get rid of that little bit right here. We're going to do that by drawing a line out from here to here, and one from here to here. And then we're going to try to move, come on, this corner point. Come on, move it. Oh, it's grabbed something else. We don't need you anymore. We'll get rid of that. Ah, grab the whole thing. All right, move that there. And another one, move that. There we go. See, I told you, Sketchup, you could do it. It doesn't believe you sometimes. All right. And we'll do the same thing on this side. Why it does stuff like this, I don't know. It's just dumb. All right. I don't think I was on that. There we go. That time I was. Awesome. And we'll get rid of you. Select all, scale it back down, make sure we're grabbing the right handle. 0.01. Okay. Now this, we can make a component. And we are going to redefine you as head. All right, so now we've got our head and our torso are complete. And we can put one on the other by grabbing one of these inside. Grabbing one of these inside like equator lines and lining it up with the one of the others inside of here. Try to find the same one if you can. No, I don't think that's it. I got lucky the first time I did this. Is that it? For some reason it's not lining up right. All right, we'll just do it this way. You over there. You to there. And you to there, and then back up 1. All right, now it's right where it needs to be. And you can see that we have a nice way to focus the direction that the ball is going to go in. We have some channels for the plastic to move out of the way and flex as it needs to, and space air holes for the air to cut out, as well as the powder, and a hollow head to allow as much of the powder to come out as possible. One thing we're going to do before we quit, I'm going to add a hole right back here, just so that I can add a backpack later on if I want to. So I want to have 3mm posts for this guy, so I'm going to come up. Let's see, I will come down from here, 1, and then let's see, that is 2.5. Let's see, how far do I want this to come down? If I have a 3mm hole, I want it at least 1, but that's okay up there. So we'll go with 2 up from here. Find our center point. There. C. 1.5. Those. What are you doing to me, SketchUp? Probably because it's touching that. So let's move you down just a hair. Accommodate poor SketchUp. 0.25 ought to do it. C. 1.5. There we go. And you see that time it was fine. In fact, I can probably just move this right back where it was without any issue. Yep. Thanks, SketchUp. I'm also going to give it a little bit of a channel coming down. That way, whenever I plug anything into there, if it also has the channel, it'll be locked and won't rotate around on the back. I can make this whatever I want. I'm going to make it completely arbitrary based on where these little line segments are. So I'm going to go from here and come straight down. Come on, draw the line. There we go. And I'm going to reference you, so I know I get the same one. Come down. There we go. Delete that. And I'm just going to push-pull that in. And get rid of that line and soften that one. All right, there we go. Our torso is complete and our head is complete. So that does it for tonight's class. For homework, if you take a look inside of our Class 2 folder, you'll see the schematics for all of the different parts. Don't worry about the limbs. We'll do that next week, especially because they have sockets on them. In particular, the shoulders and the hips. We'll do those. However, what I do want you to do, I want you to try to do the pelvis. If you take a look at it, there's a lot of, that's not even the pelvis. There's the pelvis. If you take a look at it, there's a lot of measurements here. However, they should be pretty straightforward. If you have any troubles trying to figure it out, let me know. For this area here, you're going to find that it's a lot easier if you either have it start with the 2 and use your offset tool to shrink it and then move that inner one up, or you could also start with the larger size cylinder and again offset and then move the outer one down. Either one works. So for homework, you've got the pelvis, and I'd also like you to try to do the feet. The feet, again, they're pretty straightforward. Not a lot of complex geometry going on here. It's a 8mm cylinder and an 8mm dome over top that you're going to be cutting away out of. The toe is also an 8mm dome. I included this shot here with the view hidden just so you can see that where the apex of all of these lines just lines up with the center point on here. I didn't think that was super clear from this one shot, so that'll be really easy for you to line up. Intersect them, get rid of the parts you don't need. Do you have any questions about what we've gone over or about the homework for this week?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
We're also doing what you just did there, right?
No, you can if you'd like. However, I'm going to save this in our shared folder in the lesson 2. So if you want, you can use this and just keep adding to it. But
Okay.
if you would like to try to replicate the parts that I did in class, you're more than welcome to.
Okay.
So here, I'll go ahead and save it. And lesson 2, and I'm going to call you minifig. And rather than doing like lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4 folders, we're just going to keep working in the same file because we're going to keep adding to it and building on it. So, get that. Like I said, if you want, you can start fresh and recreate what I did, or if you want, you can just use and build up on what I've done. But either way, it's up to you. So, no questions? All right. In that case, I set you guys free. Enjoy your evening, what's left of it, and I will see you next week.
Cool.
Have a good night. Thanks.
Have a good one, guys.